Volume 1, Chapter 1, Hadith 301. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Once Allah's apostle went out to the Musalla to offer the prayer on Eid al-Adha, or al-Fitr prayer. Then he passed by the women and said, "O women, give alms, as I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of hellfire were you, women." They asked, "Why is it so, O Allah's apostle?" He replied, "You curse frequently and are ungrateful to your husbands. I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. A cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you." The women asked, "O Allah's apostle, what is deficient in our intelligence and religion?" He said, "Is not the evidence of two women equal to the witness of one man?" They replied in the affirmative. He said, "This is the deficiency in her intelligence. Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during her menses?" The woman replied in the affirmative. He said, "This is the deficiency in her religion." Now, some people will say, "Why did you share that weak narration?" Well, we can look at in context and say, well, perhaps there's gaps in our understanding of it. Like, for example, some of you are ungrateful. Some of you are cursing unnecessarily or wrongly. And that's where it's from, right? And the majority, okay. If more people hit puberty and become accountable for their deeds that are female, then if things are totally equal as far as behavior and all that, that would make sense. And some gaps for one gender, well, they have pluses in other regards. So it's shown here that, for example, the implication is that a woman doesn't have to be deficient. And certainly men and women have intellectual superiorities over each other in some ways. And also this idea, well, the woman who leads a man astray, well, again, if such a woman is not of such, hasn't gone down the road to become that sort of individual. I have literally heard from the mouths of women these same things. Now, one thing that turns out not to be true is this claim of the different, the about the testimony, that a woman has half the testimony, but that is, see, in 282 of Surah 2, we don't have that a woman's testimony is half of that as a man. It's that a woman can testify if there's a gap in the testimony of another woman. And of course, men's and women's intelligences are geared more towards one way or another. But see, the woman doesn't have, the Quran does not say that she has to testify again. It's just that two women can give part of a testimony, another part of the testimony. So, in a way, you can say that the women have an advantage in testimony that the men don't. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha tadayyantum bidaynin ila أجل مسمى فاكتبوه وليكتب بينكم كاتب بالعدل ولا يأبى كاتب أن يكتب كما علمه الله فليكتب وليملل الذي عليه الحق وليتق الله ربه ولا ينقص منه شيئا فإن كان الذي عليه الحق سفيها أو ضعيفا أو لا يستطيع أن يمل فليملل وليه بالعدل واستشهدوا شهيدين من رجالكم فإن لم يكونا رجلين فرجل وامرأتان ممن ترضون من الشهداء أن تعدل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الأخرى ولا يأبى الشهداء إذا نادوا ولا تسمعوا أن تكتبوا صغيرا أو كبيرا إلى أجله ذلكم مقسط عند الله وأقوم للشهادة وأدنى ألا ترتابوا ألا أن تكون تجارة حاضرة تديرونها بينكم فليس عليكم جناح ألا تكتبوها واشهدوا إذا تبايعتم ولا يدار كاتب ولا شهيد وإن تفعلوا فإنه فسوق بكم واتقوا الله ويعلمكم الله والله بكل شيء عليم. Now, before we say it's weak because of the Quranic verse, let's point out the fact that it may have been said before that verse was learned. O you who believe, when you loan money to another for a fixed term, then have a written contract, and a scribe should write that contract honestly. The writer shouldn't refuse, since God, the singular and definitive term for God, has given these abilities to them. So he should willingly write. The person in debt should give the dictation of the contract. The debtor, so no hidden terms, the debtor should give dictation, and the debtor should fear God, who created him, and shouldn't decrease anything that he owes. And remember, just because we're using terms like he and him and stuff, we are referring to gender neutral, so anybody who's taking part in the contract. If the debtor is mentally deficient or somehow weak, let somebody else dictate for him. Let their guardian arrange the contract honestly. and make 2 witnesses from among the men. If 2 men aren't available, then 1 man and 2 women of your choice should witness, so that if one woman forgets, the other woman can remind her. So again, you don't have to have double the women. It's just that's something that can be done. And the witness shouldn't refuse when they're called. Don't be lazy in writing contracts, whether it's a big or small thing, for its terms, and that's more just, and it's stronger in the evidence, and safeguard against doubts among you. If there's a transaction in which there's hand-in-hand exchange on the spot, then there's no problem with you if you don't write it. And do make witnesses when you trade. And don't harm the writer or a witness. If you harm a writer or a witness, it is a sin on your part. So, fear God. God is merciful, teaching you, and God is all-knowing of each and everything.